So when we think about some of the skills of mastering conflict, that says we want to be able to say what we think but never berate others. That should sound very similar to something that we asked you to think about before. Do I speak to the past or do I speak to the future? Can I say what needs to be said, but can I say it in a way that it can be heard? This is, can I be assertive? I can be clear with what I think, but I don't say it in a way that attacks, berates, causes conflict from others. And in situations when there is a crisis, when there's conflict, when there's stress, when there's emotions, I understand that, I can sense that, and I can manage myself. I can stay calm in those moments. And I don't let anxiety interfere with what needs to be done. And I'd have to say that's probably one of the greatest challenges over the years that folks have expressed is anxiety over having a conversation that they think could be a conflict conversation, meaning that the other person could react badly, right? And so that fear of what's going to happen, what are they going to say when I say what I want to say, that fear can create anxiety that can stop us from having a conversation that we need to have. And again, I can't tell you how many times over the years that folks have said, you know what, I was afraid of that conversation. Let's call it passive. I avoided it. But once I understood what my role was and I had the confidence, because I had the competence to have the conversation, you know what, the conversation didn't go nearly as bad as I thought it was. Matter of fact, it turned out rather well. So one of the things we do is we don't let that anxiety, that butterflies, those fears stop us. And then reflecting before reacting, being able to consciously choose an appropriate response, to put a pause in the conversation. Or as Covey would say, to be proactive and not reactive. That says when I'm in those situations, I'm not loose, I'm controlled, I'm thoughtful. And when I make comments, when I make decisions, when I communicate, I do it thoughtfully and intentionally. So what can we do as leaders to help us to prepare for conflict? I want to go back to the Muse and help us understand that. That says we need to be able to be motivated to see to set a positive example. And that says that's got to be something that we want to do. We want to be the person who is the examples for others to follow. And I know that we've all, no matter where we've worked, have experienced a bad boss or a bad coworker that has, because of their behavior, created a big issue and sometimes it made it difficult for us. And that says we know what we don't want to be. So starting with being able to handle conflict from a leadership perspective, we have to want to be a better example. And that says that one of the things we have to understand is what our role is and our responsibility. As a leader, the higher we go in leadership, the more responsibility that we have and the less freedom that we have. When you're in leadership, you're not free to have the kind of tantrums that you might want to have that might really feel good, or to be able to hold back and not say things because it's more comfortable not to say it, perhaps, to be passive. But we need to understand that in our role as leaders that we have to not only be the example, want to be the example, but people are looking to us to be the example. And then skills is the big area that we really have the opportunity to have a better future. That is by understanding that if that is our role and if that's what we want to be an example, that we have to train and attain the skills to do that. When people ask me if they should go into a management position out of an hourly position, one of the things I really want to make sure that I have conversations with them about is when you make that transition into a leadership role, with the authority that goes with that role, that you will have conflict. You will have tough situations. You will do things that other people won't like. And sometimes it'll be the right thing and sometimes it'll be the wrong thing. But people will react to that and you'll have to deal with the conflict. We know we have that at home. And that in order to be successful and to be confident in those situations, we need to be competent in those situations. And that says we need to look for, we need to seek out, we need to constantly be working on training ourselves to be effective in handling those situations. And that means that sometimes we actually practice handling small conflicts so that we're better equipped and more capable of handling larger conflicts. So motivated, we understand our role, we have the skills, we seek those skills, we're constantly learning. And then the last is just to create a supportive environment. Have a supportive environment means that we take action to create that. And there are some things in the environment that we can't control. We understand that. But there's a lot of things that we can control. And from the perspective of being a role model, what we can control is ourselves. And that says one of the things that we do to eliminate obstacles is to put ourselves in a good state. That says we have to be rested. We have to not neglect ourselves in terms of the rest, in terms of our relaxation, in terms of our nutrition. And it's real easy when crisis situations are in place and we're operating from under the gun, we're operating under a timeline, that we begin to neglect ourselves. We begin to put in more time without having a balance of relaxation. And maybe that's a run, maybe that's a walk at lunch. It's doing things physically to distract ourselves. It's doing things physically to lower our stress. It's making sure that we're using good nutrition. Because reality is, when we are not in a good place physically or mentally, then we're more prone to reacting negative to situations and in some cases causing conflict. So when we want to create a good example, when we understand that that is our role and responsibility, when we're constantly looking to train to get better at handling the situations that are difficult, people that are difficult, and when we take care of ourselves to make sure that we are in the right mindset when we have conversations, and that if we are not in the right mindset, we don't have the conversation, then we're better prepared to deal with conflict and better prepared to be the example for conflict.